15 spine-chilling true horror stories revealed, unexplainable events that haunt your sleep. It was supposed to be a simple autumn evening in Maplewood, leaves crunching underfoot, a chill in the air, but Claire felt a pull toward something sinister. Flickering lights danced across the walls of her quaint home, shadows stretching and twisting like ghostly fingers. Every creak of the floorboard sounded louder than usual, as if the house itself was revealing its long-kept secrets. Just last week, she thought she was hearing things when the wind whistled through the trees, whispering her name, Claire, but dismissing the cold sweat that trickled down her spine, she shook her head, forcing herself back to the comforting hum of the coffee maker. "Mommy?" Timmy's voice broke through the haze. His tiny body appeared at the edge of the dimly lit hallway, eyes wide, fear etched on his cute little face. "Mr. Hargrove, he watches us." A chill swept over her, curling her stomach with dread. Mr. Hargrove, the neighbor with the friendly facade, hiding behind his curtain-wrapped front porch. She'd always given him a polite nod, but Timmy's innocent words unraveled her composure. "It's just your imagination, sweetheart," she replied, her voice trembling. But doubt hung heavy in the air, wrapping around her like a vice. Over the weeks, Claire's exhaustion became a constant companion as shadows deepened in her home, gaps between sleep filled with frayed nerves. Desperate coffee cups cluttered the counter, remnants of late shifts at the hospital. Each evening, she told herself she was simply tired, the weird flickers and odd noises would vanish with a good night's sleep. Yet, the sinister echoes grew louder, gnawing at her resolve. When the call came in that Timmy had gone missing, her heart plummeted. They'd been at the grocery store, surrounded by people. Her eyes, darting in panic, searched the flooded parking lot filled with abandoned cars, each one feeling like a tomb. "Timmy!" she screamed, voice cracking under the weight of fear. Everything felt surreal, like a waking nightmare where reality blurred into something grotesque. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with every frantic call for Timmy. She felt more isolated. The neighbors, where were they? Silence mocked her, a mockingbird that wouldn't stop screeching in her ear. Was it really normal for her to feel this alone? And when she turned back to her house, she caught Mr. Hargrove staring, his glasses reflecting the moonlight like a predator's eyes in the dark. He was always there, lurking, the shadows twisting around him and beckoning her into the unknown. As Claire's desperation grew, panic surged within, compelled to confront the man. He welcomed her with that same smile that never quite reached his eyes, hand gestures inviting and yet sinister. She glimpsed symbols splattered across his porch, carvings from a nightmarish folklore that danced in her mind, warning her of deep-seated fears coming forth in the dark. Had she truly been alone all along, or was there something more sinister feeding off her vulnerabilities, something watching and waiting in the recesses of the night? The darkness began to feel alive, crawling towards her, blurring the line between reality and monsters in her mind. Would she discover the truth before it consumed her and her children? Claire's heart raced as she stood on Mr. Hargrove's porch, her breath hitching in her throat. The sheer weight of his presence enveloped her, pulling her closer while urging her to back away. The symbols around her echoed, whispering warnings she couldn't decipher. I just wanted to talk," she stuttered, forcing a tremor from her voice. "Where's Timmy?" His smile widened, revealing teeth too sharp, too knowing. "You shouldn't worry, Claire. Children are quite resilient, aren't they?" A knot twisted painfully in her chest. What did he mean by that? Her instincts screamed for her to flee, but she remained standing, frozen in place. "I have to find him." "He's only 4, is he?" Mr. Hargrove feigned indifference, as if considering her words. A shiver rippled through Claire as she watched his eyes, cold and calculating. Suddenly, she felt trapped, as though the shadows were thickening around her, pressing against her skin. "Every night, he plays in the yard while you're asleep," he said softly, his voice like ice. "You should keep better watch." She swallowed hard. "You've seen him?" "Where?" "Don't worry, dear. The darkness has its own way of revealing things. Just trust the process." "Trust what process?" Claire's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. With a glance over his shoulder towards the darkness beyond, he continued, "Some things can be found in the dark where most refuse to go. Your boy is drawn to it." Fear gripped her. She knew then that the malevolence that had shadowed their home wasn't just a figment of her exhaustion. It was real. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she glimpsed Timmy, his small form disappearing around the side of Mr. Hargrove's house. "Timmy!" She screamed, a primal instinct igniting her legs into a full sprint. Racing around the edge of the home, her heart pounded dangerously in her ears. "Please, Timmy!" The air felt dense, electric, as she pressed through the layers of darkness. Each step felt wrong, like she was stepping into a world between worlds. The shadows danced wildly, swallowing her screams. What once felt like her neighborhood was morphing into an unfathomable abyss, where something hungered in the depths. "Mommy!" His voice echoed like a haunting ghost. It was there and then gone, fading into the wind with a chilling breeze that crawled up her spine. "Mommy!" "Timmy!" Claire's chest tightened as desperation clawed at her throat. The call of her child felt like a lifeline tugging at her as if it would pull her into safety. But the darkness was a heavy cloak, wrapping around her and threatening to consume her very being. She stumbled into the backyard, illuminated by the faint glow of a single flickering lamp. But it was empty. Timmy wasn't there. Panic set in like a swift wave. As she turned back to glance at Mr. Hargrove, he stood there, far too still, a silhouette against the dim light. "Where is he?" She cried out, her voice trembling. His grin split wider, and he replied, "He is closer than you think." Suddenly, Claire felt something brush against her ankle. She glanced down to find a small, tattered toy lying in the grass, a stuffed dinosaur Timmy never went anywhere without. Mouth dry, she picked it up, dread flooding her veins. In that moment, every instinct screamed at her to run. But the sinister grin of Mr. Hargrove held her in place. The thick veil of night enveloped her, pressing down with undeniable force. "Timmy!" She shouted again, more forcefully this time, desperately hoping for a response, but silence replied. The stillness of the night was a dark entity of its own, swallowing her cries whole. Just when despair began to settle, the shadows began to flicker once more, swirling as they played tricks on her mind. Was it her imagination, or were figures forming amongst the trees? Murmurs drifted on the wind like a lost lullaby. "Mommy!" the voice echoed again, softer and more intimate, drifting away into unknowable depths. A chill seized her spine. She took a step back, heart hammering. What lay ahead? And then, the dreadful truth settled over. Claire like a shroud, the darkness was alive. It was waiting, hungry for her next move. What horror awaited her just beyond the veil of night? As she stumbled backwards, the flickering street lamp extinguished completely, leaving her in a suffocating abyss, an uncertainty looming ahead. It felt like the breath of something unseen was on her neck, urging her onward into unfathomable terror. What would Claire find when she stepped into that void? What dark truths were lurking, waiting for her to uncover? The darkness swallowed Claire whole, leaving her in a pitch-black void. Every breath filled her with dread as cold sweat slicked her brow. She wanted to scream, but fear choked her voice. Instinctually, she clutched Timmy's toy tighter, as if it could anchor her to reality or bring her son back to her. "Mommy!" The voice floated again, but this time it was closer. The familiar wail skittered along her spine, causing her to spin around, searching for the source. "Timmy!" she cried, hoping for even a flicker of his silhouette. With trembling hands, she fumbled for her phone, desperately swiping the screen to produce a faint, comforting glow. The light cast long shadows that warred against the dark. As she turned, the shadows writhed, pulling back only to twist into shapes that seemed too alive, too human. A figure lurked just at the edge of the light, too big to be Timmy, yet too vague to identify. "Who is there?" she whispered, heart hammering against her ribcage. A laugh, a cruel, raspy chuckle filled the air. It echoed through the yard, the darkness trembling in its wake. "Searching for someone?" The voice slithered around her, imbued with malice. It was Mr. Hargrove, his face now an outlined shadow, a predator relishing the hunt. "Where is my son?" She spat, adrenaline igniting her senses, forcing bravery to rise. She took a cautious step forward, but the night seemed to bulge with malice, pushing back against her. "Children reveal their true selves in the dark," he taunted, his form flickering like the dying light in a horror film. "They embrace what you fear." "Timmy!" Claire shouted desperately, unsteady and inundated with a fierce resolve to protect her child, whatever the cost. For a moment, silence reigned. Then she heard it, a faint rustle. It was just beyond the edge of the lamplight. Shadows flitted, the air thickened, encasing her in palpable fear. "Mommy!" "The dinosaur!" Timmy's voice echoed again, winding through the trees like a forgotten memory. "Timmy!" She shouted again, and the charge of her maternal instincts sent her sprinting towards the sound. The toy gripped tightly in her hand felt strangely warm, oddly alive. The roar of horror rose within her as a gritty noise punched through the air, a dragging sound, dragging something toward Mommy. His voice was darker now, twisted against the backdrop of her terror. "Timmy!" Suddenly, the ground bucked beneath her, an unnatural thud reverberating with each heartbeat. The very earth seemed to breathe, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. "Come closer, Claire. Isn't this what you want?" Mr. Hargrove's voice taunted again, resonating with the shapes in the dark. "Shut up!" She screamed back, pushing against the instinct to flee, feeling the pull of the fear clawing at every inch of her sanity. As she drew nearer, she saw a shadowed form, something hunched down in the dirt, small, instability surrounding it. "Timmy!" Her voice was raw, tearing into the void. When she reached the form, everything inside her went cold. Timmy was there, but wrong. He was not alone. The ground shook, a rumble that felt ancient as around them, faces erupted from the darkness, blurred, distorted, eyes wide with longing, mouths twisted in silent screams. "Mommy, help!" Timmy's voice turned hollow, echoing within the abyss as his gaze locked with hers. He was trapped by shadows that writhed against him. As she moved to rescue him, grasping for his tiny hand, the darkness surged up towards her, a wave pulling at her very essence, wrapping around her, dragging her into its depths. "Claire!" Mr. Hargrove's voice echoed, a haunting melody that lured her deeper, each note a reminder of the darkness that now called her home. What terror lay waiting for her in their grasp? What could Claire sacrifice to save her son from this living nightmare, and would she survive if she did? The grip of darkness tightened around Claire, smothering her cries. The cold claws of fear scraped against her mind as she fought to break free from the shadow's hold. The ground beneath her quaked, restless, a sinister force pulling at her very core, urging her to give in. "Timmy!" She yelled again, her voice split by panic and sorrow. But the shadows responded first, laughing. It was the sound of children's voices trapped in mockery, a chorus of misplaced glee. "Mommy, help!" came Timmy's voice, now mingled with cries that belonged to the faces swirling in the darkness, faces twisted with anguish, longing, and something darker still. She felt the weight of them, holding her, binding her with their ghostly presence. Memories flared in her mind, Timmy's laughter, his wide eyes filled with wonder, the joy of shared moments. She couldn't let this consume him. The shadows around him writhed, wrinkled arms reaching out, seeking connection, desperately wanting to pull him into their unending night. With sheer force of will, Claire fought back against the shadows. She lunged forward, grasping for Timmy's hand. The pull of the shadows clutched at her ankles, slithering up her legs, threatening to bring her down into their gaping maw. The moment her fingers brushed Timmy's, a jolt of energy both electrifying and painful coursed through her. She clasped his hand tighter, her heart racing. "Hold on, sweetheart," she cried, feeling the edges of despair creep closer. "I want to let go." But in the depths of her possession, Timmy began to fade. The shadows that surrounded him tightened like a noose, and his face blanched, losing the vibrancy she loved so much. "Mommy," he whimpered, his eyes showing a hollow depth that sliced through Claire's heart. "Stop!" she screamed, rage intertwining with her fear. "Let him go." Her voice fractured in the echoing darkness, bolder now and cracking like thunder, but the laughter grew more pronounced, a chilling sound, mocking her resolve. "Children don't belong here," Hargrove's voice boomed, growing stronger, wrapped in dark warmth. "They illuminate what we hide. They don't need you, they need the darkness." "No!" Claire shouted, the weapon of her defiance rising within her like a fire. "He needs me and I need him. We will not be yours." And just like that, something shifted. The shadows recoiled as if struck, allowing a breath of light to penetrate their suffocating grip. Eyes flickered with uncertainty, whispers of fear rippling through the multitude of lost souls. Timmy's face came back into focus. His small hand felt frail in hers, but he was fighting too. "Mommy! I believe!" he cried, strength flooding through them, igniting the darkness just enough to illuminate a path for them to escape, yet, as they pulled away, it became evident the darkness would not easily release its prize. It thrashed, pulling them back with a furious, dark grip, desperate to reclaim what it had nearly consumed. The faces twisted angrily, venomous and sorrowful, lashing out not just at her but also at Timmy. With every ounce of her will, Claire turned to face the oppressive shadows. "We can't stay in this place," she yelled. "You can't have him." But Mr. Hargrove's laughter rang out, dark and hollow, echoing through the night, infiltrating her mind. "You think you can take him from me? What do you know of his true self?" The shadows violently expanded, pulling Timmy's small frame toward their beckoning void, clawing at him like a hungry beast. Fear wrapped around Claire, tightening, stifling her breath. "Mommy!" Timmy's voice trembled as the darkness threatened to consume him again. Just then, a flash of realization struck Claire. She must confront the darkness that lurked within, not just for Timmy but for herself too. She had been terrified of losing him, but what if the darkness was something deeper, something they could face together? "Timmy!" she shouted, determination igniting her voice. "You are light. You are hope. I believe in you." As the darkness swelled around them, the ground shook with a malevolent force. Would their bond be strong enough to break the curse that Hargrove had laid? Would it be enough to drive the darkness away once and for all? The shadows paused, flickering, their hold wavering for just a moment, enough for Claire to see her son's face shine again. But then the laughter pierced through the air again like shattered glass. "You are fools to defy what lies within." Would clarity and courage be enough to fend off the looming despair? Or would they remain forever lost in the shadow's treacherous embrace? The air shifted, growing thick with tension. Claire could feel the darkness vibrating, pulsating like a monstrous heart, and with each thump, Timmy was pulled closer to its depths. The playful laughter twisted into a sinister symphony, clawing at her sanity. Claire's skin prickled, the shadows were alive, waging war against her fragile hope. "I want to let go." She gritted through clenched teeth, refusing to relent as the darkness gnawed at her will. In a moment of clarity, she realized the key lay in the light, in remembering. "Timmy, remember our games? Do you remember the time you caught fireflies in the backyard? How they sparkled in your hands?" Timmy's eyes flickered with the memory, just for a heartbeat. "Mommy, I remember," he called back, struggling against the shadows. "Think about the fireflies. They chased the darkness away. You are stronger than this." Beams of hope started to weave through her voice, unraveling the silk of despair. The shadows hesitated, trembling as if unsure how to respond, but Hargrove's presence loomed larger, angry and contemptuous. What feeble tricks! He spat, the darkness writhing around him, embracing him like an old friend. Your memories are flimsy against the abyss. They won't save you. Maybe not, Claire shot back, but they connect us. Love is light, Hargrove. You can't take that away. Suddenly, a cacophony erupted. The shadows shrieked, voices combining in a terrifying chorus, a dreadful symphony of lost souls. Mommy, help us, echoed through the void, the spectral shapes emerging briefly, faces frozen in eternal sorrow. They were children, just like Timmy. Claire's heart sank. What have you done to them? She asked, shock flooding her tone. They are mine. Hargrove exclaimed, his voice booming with triumph. Each one chosen to serve the darkness. They belong to me, twisted and broken. No. Claire bellowed, feeling fury rise inside. You're a liar. They deserve to be free. With a defiant cry, she tugged at Timmy, summoning the memories of laughter, warmth, and sunlight. The light within her ignited fiercely, slicing through the grim fog around them. The shadows warped, recoiling again as fragmented wails of despair echoed from trapped souls. Timmy's face transformed, flickering between the shadows and their essence of pure joy. Help them, Mommy. Please. He begged, reaching out toward their ghostly cries. The darkness trembled violently, unleashing a storm of shrieks as Claire fought to hold her ground. She pressed close to Timmy, the bond between them glowing brighter in the engulfing gloom. We can do this together. Show them light. Moments stretched, and then Claire staggered as shadows lashed out in a frenzy, stark and violent. One reached her, icy fingers brushing her skin, clawing desperately as it emitted a sorrowful, chilling wail. Her breath froze in her throat, panic rising like bile. Mommy! Timmy screamed, his voice shaking to the core of her being. It pierced through her dread, forcing her to focus, to ground herself in love and determination. Find your strength. In that instant, an overwhelming rush surged through her, searing bright and hot. Claire suddenly understood that light didn't belong only to memories, but was forged in the courage to confront the darkness. With newfound resolve, Claire squeezed Timmy's hand tighter as she channeled all the warmth, all the love, in one final push. We bring the light. We will not let you win. A blinding burst erupted from them, radiating fiercely, illuminating the dark chamber where shadows scrambled in fear, twisting in agony. But within that light, Hargrove's laughter erupted once again, now tinged with madness. You think this is over? I have only begun to unleash the horrors that dwell inside. As the light fought against the suffocating void, Claire knew this battle was far from finished. The shadowed faces still cried out, battling for freedom, and she could feel their pain deep within her. Timmy, we're not done yet, she whispered, but fear settled over her heart. What else would they face? What horrors had Hargrove truly awakened? And then, the laughter changed, spinning into an eerie chant that rose in pitch, the darkness closing in once again, ready for the next assault. What other ancient terrors lurked in the corners of this place? Would their courage be enough, or would the shadows consume them whole? The ground shook beneath them, a low rumble of discontent that echoed through the dark chamber. Claire's heart raced, each tremor felt like a warning. Hargrove's laughter morphed into a rhythmic chant, the words foreign and twisted. Shadows spiraled around them, rising like fog from a graveyard, thickening with each syllable. Timmy, close your eyes, Claire urged, trying to block out the sound that clawed at her sanity. She pressed her lips against the side of his head, the warmth of his little body grounding her. She drew breath and conjured memories running through the autumn leaves, baking cookies, summer barbecues under a blazing sun. Each flash of light fought against the impending horror. The chamber began to shift. The walls trembled, eroding into something sinisterly organic, pulsing like a living creature. Faces appeared in the damp stone, agony etched in their features. They reached out, eyes wide and pleading, mouths open in silent screams. "Help us," they begged in unison, their voices blending perfectly with Hargrove's chant, morphing into a haunting melody. "No!" Claire yelled, her voice stronger than the fear gnawing at her. "You won't take him. You can't take his light." As if responding, the shadows tightened around Timmy, dragging him backward, their grip icy and unyielding. The laughter crescendoed, harmonizing with the cries of lost souls, a maddening cacophony threatening to drown her out. Each pulse of darkness pushed Timmy away, inch by desperate inch. "Mommy!" Timmy's high-pitched wail sliced through the chaos, and Claire's heart twisted painfully in her chest. She could see his little fingers straining towards her, stretched and trembling. With every ounce of strength, Claire anchored herself against the wall of shadows encircling them. "Timmy, remember the stars!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the clamoring cries. "The way they sparkled at night. You have to fight." The shadows shuddered, recoiling at her words. A flicker of light ignited in Timmy's eyes, but for every spark of hope, the darkness deepened. Hargrove threw back his head, eyes glinting with madness. "You think nostalgia will save you?" His voice dripped with malice. "Let us see how long that light lasts." With a grotesque snap, many more shadows surged forward, coiling together, forming a massive figure. It towered over them, grotesque and shifting, a shape made of overlapping despair. Its eyes, dark holes in the endless night, bore down on Claire with a chilling weight. "Run, Claire!" Timmy cried, terror flooding his voice. "Not without you!" Panic blared in her chest, unfurling in a desperate attempt to keep the connection, even as the darkness ravaged the space around them. Suddenly, something in her flared. A memory, a passage from a fairy tale they had read together. "And when the shadows come, hold tight to love." The words surged through her, feeding her resolve. "Maybe it won't last," Claire shouted over the pandemonium, focusing fiercely on her bond with Timmy. "But it's worth fighting for. Love is the brightest light you can't see." The colossal figure faltered, momentarily shaken. Timmy's fingers slipped from the shadows gripping him, reaching for Claire. "Together, we can do this," he cried, and the light flared between them, pushing back the darkness. But the figure roared, a sound like shattered glass, shattering their moment of hope. Claire felt a lurch deep within, as if the very ground itself rebuked her. Hargrove, unfazed, raised both hands and the shadows twisted with a determined fury. "Enough!" he bellowed, and in that instant, dark tendrils seized Claire's arms, pulling her back with terrifying strength, coldness creeping through her veins. Just as the light around them dimmed, she saw Timmy screaming, his small form disappearing into the abyss. The shadows cackled, a monstrous echo that reverberated in her bones. "Wait!" Claire shouted, her voice breaking. "You promised me." But what was the promise worth if she couldn't save him? What strength remained against the storm of despair? Somewhere deep within the blackness, a flicker of something stirred, a primal instinct that whispered to Claire the true nature of darkness. And for the first time, fear turned to a bitter resolve. But then there was silence. All sound ceased. Claire stood on the precipice of despair, breath caught, knowing that something altogether more terrifying was about to unfold. What other horrors lay hidden in the void? Would she be able to stand against the very essence of fear? Would love be enough to defy the darkness, or was this just the beginning of an unspeakable nightmare? The stillness weighed heavily, a blanket of dread pressing down on Claire. She could almost taste it, a metallic tang in the air mingling with the musty scent of decay. Was it the absence of sound or the anticipation of what came next that quickened her heartbeat? Suddenly, the shadows began to pulse again, shifting in time with her racing thoughts. Hargrove's laughter thrummed in her ears, a taunting reminder of just how powerless she felt. The darkness had swallowed Timmy, and that realization clawed at her core. "Timmy!" she screamed, desperation igniting a feral instinct within her. With every ounce of willpower, Claire pushed against the icy tendrils constricting her. Her vision blurred, but she refused to blink. The faces in the stone walls, once twisted in anguish, now seemed to watch her with renewed interest. "Help us," they murmured, their voices growing more insistent. In that moment, Claire understood they were not just souls, but remnants trapped in this nightmare, perhaps victims of Hargrove's sadistic power. The chilling realization hit her: if they could find their voice, perhaps so could she. "Leave us alone," she shouted with every ounce of strength. The shadows recoiled, and for the first time, the twisted specters appeared unnerved. Perhaps it was her courage that threw them off, or maybe it was the unmistakable tremor of fear they sensed in Claire, a bond they shared with her against the true darkness, but Hargrove's mocking laughter rang out, shattering the moment. "You think you can talk back to the abyss?" he sneered, his eyes gleaming like dark stars. "You're merely delaying the inevitable." With a flick of his wrist, it began. The shadows surged, wrapping tighter around her, compressing her breath. Panic coursed through her veins like wildfire. She could almost feel Timmy's warmth slipping away, could almost hear his little voice in the distance, lost in the engulfing gloom. "Timmy!" She cried out again, but this time, it was a ragged whisper, too weak to pierce the thick darkness that and the heartbeat of that silence. Claire felt something shift within her. A seed of determination buried deep inside sprouted fragile wings. There was a flicker, lights reflecting dimly off her memories, like fireflies dancing in a black void. "Love is the brightest light you can't see." The words echoed within her, igniting a spark against the dwindling shadows around her. "No!" Hargrove roared, sensing her inner conflict, his excitement turning into anger. "She's only prolonging the pain. Show her, my shadows. Crush the light." The darkness surged forward, a wave of despair threatening to consume her whole. Claire narrowed her focus, her love for Timmy a fierce flame amidst the encroaching shadows. She remembered the laughter, the warmth, his tiny hands grasping hers, and she summoned every bit of that joy. "Timmy, let us fight!" she shouted, the words bursting forth with newfound vigor. "Stay with me. Your light is stronger than their darkness." Suddenly, a pulse shot through the chamber, vibrant energy erupting as if her call had been answered. Timmy, a beacon beyond reason, was not lost. "I'm here, Mommy." His voice rang bright, reverberating, lifting her spirit. The shadows shrieked and recoiled, but Hargrove, enraged, waved his arms as the monstrous figure lurched forward, growing larger, more menacing. Claire felt the floor tremble beneath her as if the very foundation of this nightmare was cracking. Glimmers of light danced around her. Hope surged, but uncertainty followed close behind. Would this moment be enough? Spurred on by an insatiable resolve, Claire squeezed her eyes shut, imagining Timmy standing beside her, fearless, radiant, even in the dark. She pushed her hand forward, feeling the heavy shadows push back, an unseen current tugging against her resolve. But just as the brightness swelled, shadows lashed out, striking and tearing at the edges of her vision, cold, clammy hands reaching from the void. They whispered secrets of despair, of darkness, of shadows that had perished long ago. How could she stand firm against such horror, now? Was the moment of truth? Claire braced herself, ready for the impending clash. Would she emerge victorious? Or would she and her love be consumed, forever lost in Hargrove's unending night? And as the walls of the chamber began to crumble around her, the question lingered: what did she truly have to sacrifice to reclaim her son from the depths of darkness? The shadows writhed, their grip tightening around Claire just as a hot wind swept through the chamber, a volatile rush of energy that sent the darkness swirling in chaotic arcs. With her heart pounding like a war drum, Claire could feel the pulse of Timmy's voice coursing through her. It was a lifeline through fierce ocean waves meant to drown her. "Mommy!" His call echoed again, clearer, a beacon cutting through the fog of gloom. It gave her strength, but doubt clawed at her. Was this all just an illusion crafted by Hargrove to siphon her hope? Desperation fueled her resolve, and she summoned the images of their evenings together, warm, snug, and safe. Each face she passed in the walls now looked more like specters of despair, pleading, mournful. Were they souls haunted by the same demon, or were they remnants doomed to watch as another life shattered in front of them? "Fight, Timmy!" she screamed, forcing the words out as harsh and raw as the pain she felt inside. "You're stronger than this. We can beat him." Hargrove rattled with laughter that vibrated through her bones as the walls quaked again, creaking like the final breaths of a dying man. "Is that your rallying cry, Claire? Pathetic. You can't save him from what he has become. The shadows are already dragging him under." With dread clawing in her throat, she knew he might be right. But then she felt it, a warmth, soft and gentle, creeping against the shadows that suffocated her. It was familiar. Timmy. An image of him poured into her mind, his little fists raised in defiance, his smile bright even in the darkest corners of her memory. "Let him go!" she shouted, surging against the encroaching gloom. "Our love is stronger than your darkness." With renewed vigor, she pushed her hands against the walls, feeling the vibrations pulse. Every heartbeat resonated within her. As she shouted, the air thickened around her, swelling with energy, releasing sparks of luminescent light that pierced the darkness. The room became alive with their battle, shadows shrieking as they hissed against the bright tide washing over them. Yet Hargrove's face twisted in rage, amplifying his monstrous stature until he was towering, a colossal terror that loomed before her. "You dare challenge me? I will devour your light. I will make you watch as hope turns to ash." "No!" she screamed back, raw determination rising like bile as she felt around her, seeking all the lost voices trapped within the walls. They needed to help her, they needed to join the fight. "Break the chains. Be strong, just like Timmy," she called out, channeling their agony, their yearning for freedom. As the shadows squirmed and writhed, she connected with the spirits, remembering those caught in the hold of despair, unable to scream. In her mind, she gathered them up, letting them fuel her courage. Together, she shouted to the shadows. "You are more than this. Fight with me." An eerie chorus rose, an echo of voices that filled the chamber. Desperate cries morphed into a unified chant, surging toward Hargrove. For a moment, his dark light flickered, as though dimming under the weight of their refusal to succumb, but then, with a guttural growl, he unleashed a wave of pure darkness, pouring like a thick sludge through the air. Claire gasped as the cold swept over her, each inch of icy tendril curling closer, wrapping tight around hope. It was suffocating. Just when despair threatened to crush her, a blinding flash erupted, a radiant pulse beyond anything she could imagine, as Timmy's spirit answered her. Could he be housing the strength to challenge the shadows, too? "Mom, I'm here!" he cried, the brilliance erupting like fireworks in her chest. But the darkness surged again, ever relentless. Claire's breath hitched, apprehension creeping back with a chilling fury. The shadows were not going down without a fight. Would this united front be enough to break Hargrove's hold? Or was something far worse lurking just beneath the surface? With fear coiling around her, Claire held on tighter, ready to meet the encroaching storm, but the darkness laughed, promising a revelation yet to come. Claire felt the brilliance of Timmy's spirit radiate within her, fueling her resolve, but Hargrove's laughter echoed loud, sounding like gravel grinding together, and the shadows around her lurched violently. With every scream of resistance, tendrils of darkness reached out, growing thicker and more sinister. She screamed back, her voice trembling, "We won, be silenced." Yet the deeper shadows twisted around her, waning light like serpents squeezing tighter. Fear gripped her throat, stifling her cries. "Timmy!" she shouted, hoping he could hear her, that he could somehow fight off this encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the air thickened. Claire's heart raced as she felt the temperature drop, a frigid chill igniting goosebumps on her skin. It was as if despair exhaled, forcing her to take slow, panicked breaths. She looked around, the walls of the chamber pulsing with memory, faces twisted in agony, mouths opened in soundless screams. "Feed me their fear," Hargrove sneered, his voice gliding through her like icy fingers, "their sorrow, their regrets, let it sink into the void. Let me consume you all." As if responding to his command, the shadows began to cocoon her. Panic clawed at her insides. Bitter memories rose like ghosts each moment of doubt, every time she felt like a failure. They surged at her, clawing for release, eager to drag her down. She fought against them, battling her past with every ounce of her strength. No! She cried, shaking her head fiercely against the curl of despair. You don't own me. We were happy. We can be again. For a moment, the darkness hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty momentarily breaking its hold. Claire seized the opportunity. Join me. She yelled to the trapped souls within the walls. We can fight this. Remember the light of your love. The voices of the others responded, rising in a tumultuous crescendo as memories of joy began to pierce through Hargrove's unrelenting darkness. Claire felt their sorrow shift, morphing into something feral, something alive. The shadows recoiled, hissing and snarling, but Hargrove wasn't done. You think this will save you, Claire? This paltry flicker of light is no match for my eternal night. With a guttural roar, he unleashed a torrent of darkness, cascading over her like a wave. It collided against her light, a catastrophic clash, light and dark intertwined in a terrible dance. Claire gasped as the cold seeped into her bones, chilling her resolve. The weight of despair struck her down like a kick to the gut. Staggering, she fought to push back the tide, feeling each lost soul rallying behind her as hope flickered, a candle against a storm. She pressed her palms to her heart, summoning every shred of love she had ever known, every cuddle with Timmy, every laugh shared, every moment that burned bright in her memory. Fight! Claire cried out, channeling their collective strength. Together. The shadows, though fierce, began to recede, their hold weakening under the power of unity. Yet Hargrove's laughter grew louder, taunting, such heart, such warmth, I'll savor watching it turn cold. With a chilling sweep of his hand, he unleashed the darkness yet again, but this time, the spirits responded with a furious roar that echoed like thunder. Light surged forth, pulsating in waves. But just as victory seemed within grasp, a strange sound filled the air, a rattling, like chains being pulled, and Claire felt her heart drop. Was something much worse awakening right beneath the surface of their struggle? The darkness pulsated like a heartbeat, and she could sense the shadows gathering, coiling tighter, readying for their final assault. What lay in that deep, dark fold? Hope turned to ice as despair crept back in. Timmy! She cried out, the terror rising, suffocating her every breath. Would her son, her love, be lost to this malevolent abyss? As the shadows convulsed around her, ready to make their final move, Claire braced for the impact, knowing everything hinged on this moment. But what if their greatest threat wasn't the darkness outside? What if it was the darkness inside? The air crackled with tension, an electric current weaving through the darkness. Claire stood, rooted in determination, as the shadows writhed around her, whispering the anguished cries of souls lost to despair. Timmy's voice echoed in her heart, a flickering spark in the twilight. Hold on. She called into the void, pressing on despite the thickening gloom. Mommy. The sound cut through the chaos, closer, more urgent. He was fighting, too. Drawing the last remnants of strength, Claire reached out, imagining the warmth of his little hand in hers. She couldn't let the darkness win. Hargrove's sneered laughter pierced through the tension. You think you can save him? You're just feeding into my abyss. The shadows coiled tighter, clawing at her, drawing her into their all-consuming embrace. No. Claire shouted, grounding herself. He is light. He is hope. She felt a surge of warmth blossom in her chest. Her vulnerability transformed into fierceness, igniting a defiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. The faces of the lost souls stirred behind her, beginning to awaken, flickers of resolve igniting in their hollow eyes. We are not yours. She cried, and then she pushed forward, channeling every ounce of love she felt into her voice. Remember the light. The love. We are strong together. Timmy's voice surged up beside hers, lending his strength. I believe, Mommy. I'm right here. The words vibrated with a power that rippled through the shadows, pushing against the oppressive weight above them. Claire threw her arms wide, invoking every memory of laughter, warmth, and joy. Fight with your memories. Fight for what you cherish. The shadows twisted and wobbled as light erupted from within her, a fierce, radiant glow that threatened to swallow the darkness whole, but Hargrove roared in fury, "I will not let you take my prize." He loomed larger, alarming shadows coalescing behind him, creating a monstrous figure of despair. But something else was stirring, an echo of hope from the remnants of lost souls who had witnessed the bond between Claire and Timmy. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber ruptured, crashing down with a deafening roar. With a cry, Claire pulled Timmy's memory to her, the soft giggles of their shared moments echoing in her mind. "We can do this. Together." She shouted, her voice carrying through the chaos. The darkness quaked, hesitated, and for a moment, it faltered. Claire seized her chance, pushing forward, a blazing force of courage. "You cannot own our hearts. Love is stronger." Light fanned out, brightening the dark expanse as cracks split through the shadows, breaking the hold on Timmy. "Mommy!" he cried, reaching for her, a beam of his spirit shining through. "Take my hand!" Claire shouted, crackling energy pouring from her heart as she lunged, grabbing at the brilliance of Timmy. With a final, desperate pull of love, pure, unyielding, she surged against the grasp of shadows. In a blinding flash, a radiant explosion tore through the depths of despair, illuminating everything it touched. The gathering darkness shrieked, shattering against their combined brilliance, swirling back into chaos as clarity surged through the night's fabric. Claire felt it reverberate, a lifeblood of hope, and then, silence embraced her. Cautiously opening her eyes, Claire found herself standing in a forest bowered softly in sunlight. The darkness had lifted, the weight crushed by radiant warmth. She felt lightheaded but whole. A soft breath escaped her lips. "Timmy. Mommy." His small but solid form burst forth from the trees. Claire dropped to her knees, pulling him close, the warmth of his body enveloping her in peace. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I thought I lost you." "Never!" he exclaimed, his laughter bright and innocent. They stayed wrapped in each other's arms, the world around them pulsing with life, light and warmth flooding the landscape, vibrant colors overtaking the shadows. As they stepped from the embrace of the forest into the gleaming light, Claire turned. The specters of lost souls shimmered softly behind them, their anguished faces now at peace, beckoning them forth with gentle smiles. "Thank you," their whispers floated, a whispering breeze of gratitude. Finally free, Claire understood. She had fought not just for Timmy but for all of them against the darkness that sought to bury love. As she and Timmy walked hand in hand towards the horizon, she knew they would face whatever came next together, the shadows behind them fading swiftly into the past. Together, they were light, even as darkness looms in the corners of the world. Claire and Timmy had cast a beacon of hope that would always endure. Now, if you loved this emotional journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Join our community of true fans who appreciate every moment we share.